Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I am your host, Nicholas Allen, and if you're watching the video, you can see I am off-site again today, so I will do my best to make this into a nice, neat package for you guys to enjoy. My guest today is Patrick Russell, a Green Beret from the 5th Special Forces Group. You can check out his YouTube channel at Migizi, M-I-G-I-Z-I, Outdoors. Migizi is the Ojibwe word for eagle. Does a lot of outdoor tips, techniques, procedures to keep you safe and surviving in the outdoors. Also does some classes recently that he has having people sign up for. I will have links to his socials in the show description. Today's episode is brought to you by the Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group helps you restore balance, unlock vitality through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based, personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician, an emergency medicine physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a former Green Beret. What does all that mean? That means Dr. Taylor Bosley is an actual doctor who can give you actual medical advice and prescribe you actual medicine. What comes along with that is he has a similar background. He knows where you've been, where you want to go, and the correct way to get you there, to get you feeling your best. If this is something you just started thinking about, just hearing about for the first time, or have been thinking about for a long time, reach out to the Precision Wellness Group and they can point you in the right direction. I will have links to their socials along with Patrick Russell's and Migizi Outdoors in the show description. I do appreciate you guys. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Patrick Russell, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It's just interesting. You know people almost completely from online. Like, well, I just know you from the Special Forces page on Facebook because you're always posting stuff, and I'm always being sarcastic. Never mean, but I'm always trying to be sarcastic and funny on there because that page gets a little strange sometimes in the comments. So I try and lighten things up a little bit. But I've been following, you don't know somebody, but I've been following what you got going on for years now. So it's actually nice to finally sit down and talk with you and meet you and actually hear what you're about and what all the stuff you got going on. Um, so I'm excited to talk to you today.
Always happy to share.
Yeah, man. Um, how is it? Are you having as much fun as it looks like you're having doing the JROTC stuff?
Yes. But I joke with I joke with people because I never in a thousand years did I ever think I would be a high school educator or any sort of role. Like I can't do like a math teacher or an English teacher. I can't do it. So I respect those guys. But what I'm doing specifically, it's so much fun. If coming from a Green Beret background, especially because it's almost like you're working with your, indigenous forces on a daily basis, training them from knowing nothing to knowing something, and watching them grow and just hanging out with them. And then, of course, I have a 15-year-old mentality and humor level, so it works well with everybody. But never in a thousand years did I ever think I would be a part of it. But it's probably the best thing I could have hoped for post military.
Okay, so you're because you're retired, right? And it's kind of like is it like a pseudo teacher position? Because I'm not sure how this works. So I just learned how
Uh-huh.
ROTC works, and that's a
Yeah.
whole different level of thing. But this is kind of you're like a teacher.
Yes. So I got medically retired after 15 years in 2018. And so back then, I think they changed the regs recently, but back then you had to be military retired. And back then when I tried out, my son was going through the program. And so I'd go hang out with him and he was doing this thing called Raiders, which is an extracurricular obstacle course type team or activity. And I'd always pick him up. He's always covered in mud and bleeding and stuff. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, this is what I'm doing." I'm like, "That sounds awesome. Can I come watch?" And so I'd go watch, and I ended up getting invited because of my background. I'm watching these kids climb a rope, and I was in much better shape back then. And so I'm like, "Can I teach these kids how to climb a rope?" And so the colonel was like, "Yeah, go ahead, teach them how to climb a rope." So I'm teaching them how to climb ropes. These kids are like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And anyways, I got invited to be kind of like a extra coach for that team, and then the marksmanship team because of always instructing marksmanship, etc. So I got integrated with their extracurriculars, and um, brought on after this. I just ended my third year, and so to answer your question, it is a teaching position, but it's a program that is um, sponsored by DoD, and the schools have to let the program be in existence, but it's sponsored by um, DoD. And what's good about that with the schools is that it saves them money because versus paying my salary, which basically I'm a government contractor, um, there's a cost share. So the government pays 50% of my salary, so the school gets to save money, and then the extracurriculars that come down and all the equipment and everything is paid supposed to be paid for by the government if they can ever pass a budget. But yeah, so we are just an extracurricular. We qualify as a health PE credit and an elective. When we kind of advertise it to the fresh or to the eighth grade coming into freshmen that you got to get your health credit, your PE credit, your elective credit. Well, you come to us, you knock out all three in 1 year, so it benefits you in that aspect. And then we just teach them basic military science and leadership fundamentals, and we just try to have some fun days going out camping, doing some survival stuff, rappelling, waterborne, whatever. So it's a good time.
Just just normal stuff. Is this during the school day or
Yeah.
is this after school like a sport?
So the sports are after school, but during school, we'll take field trips to, there's a National Guard center not too far from here. And we'll take field trips up there and do their leadership reaction course, um, which is a whole day activity, and that's real fun to do. They really enjoy that. We have a rappel tower at the school, so each period or block, as it is here, we'll go out and do rappelling. We'll do a cookout, whatever, while they're zipping down ropes, and then we have obstacle courses and one rope bridge sites. So we'll take each class out there and just kind of get them familiarized, and then those who actually want to do it competitively after school, they'll do it competitively, and they'll zip through the obstacle course in like 20 minutes, and it's not an easy obstacle course. So it's pretty. So yeah, so that's pretty impressive to watch.
Fun, man. That's just something that I didn't really pay too much attention in high schools, but I don't think that was a thing. What's the, like, how much more likely are they to go into an ROTC program after doing JROTC? Or is this more of a pathway to enlisting?
So it's called the career pathway at our school, and the career is obviously the military, but we're not a recruiting mechanism. Um, but kids who do come to the program are more likened to join the military post high school, and so they come and get that experience and that um, engagement, I suppose, to help them with going into the military afterwards. I think this year we just graduated a class, and two or three of them enlisted into the military. And last year it's about 2 to 5 every year that enlist into the military. And on occasion, kids will, whether they're in the program or not, they'll come to myself or the colonel and say, hey, I want to go to West Point. What do I got to do to go to West Point? And he'll kind of guide you through that process. Or I want an ROTC contract, and I want to join the National Guard to do that. So we'll get them in touch with the National Guard recruiters, things of that sort. So it's not a mechanism for enlistment. However, people who are more likened to join do come to us.
Big, I guess how big are the classes total? I guess per freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. How many are in each class doing this?
This last year, well, my first year, we had like 80 freshmen or something like that, just a ridiculous number. And had like 150 total cadets, which at our school it's unheard of because it's a rural Kentucky school. So you're looking at more than 10% of the population of the school being in JROTC. This last school year, we had maybe 110, so still over 10% of the student body. This next year, I think we're coming in with 40 freshmen, and we're going to have like 35 seniors. So right there, I mean, we're almost at 100 just out of the freshmen and seniors. And then I don't know how many sophomores or juniors, but yeah, these last 3 years we've had over 100 cadets total, and so each class is roughly anywhere between 30 and 40 cadets. So they're pretty sizable for two people to manage.
And where are you at? You're in Kentucky, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
about an hour north of Clarksville.
Okay. So what are the kids, like you said, the three things they can knock out those three credits that they need, but what are some of the other reasons these kids are signing up for this?
So these kids, we ask them at the beginning of every year, like, why are you here? And some want to get in better shape, so they're there to do the workouts, of which we do PT twice a week, and it's military style PT, so running, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, things like that. Um, and then some want the leadership exposure and the leadership training, which we obviously offer. And some of them are there because they just want to um, get more involved in their community. We have several community service opportunities, feeding homeless or volunteering for local uh, missions, things of that sort. Um, and then there's others that are just there because they really don't know what they want, but they end up growing into an individual that, when they first started, they didn't know who they wanted to become, and then by the time they're graduating, they know exactly who they want to be, and they got a plan and all sorts of stuff. So we kind of have a hodgepodge of a little bit of everything.
You said 3 years. So this is the freshmen that you started with will now be seniors this year.
Yeah,
Is that pretty
yeah, and
cool
I
for you?
it is, and I talked to them yesterday because we just graduated a class on Thursday, and so those kids I've known since they were sophomores, and these kids, I've known them since day one. Them still wet on the nose, like walking through the front door, terrified of, Sergeant Russell, with my mean NCO demeanor, and watching them just grow throughout the last 4 years. I mean, it's been an awesome experience, and they're like, "You're gonna cry," because I don't cry, and that's kind of the running joke is like Sergeant Russell never cries. I'm like, yeah, I didn't. Nope, heart of stone, stoic all the time, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna make you cry on when I graduate because you've known me for 4 years, and then they start with the, I've lost 80 pounds because of working out with you or whatever, or I got my whole life together because of things that you taught me, and they're just trying to like get all this. They're like zapping all of this like energy onto me, and I'm like, and I'm like, I got a meeting in like 5 minutes, wrap this up, right? And then I walk away just like, oh, it's gonna be weird when they graduate and they're no longer there.
These kids are wearing you down. They're prepping the battlefield. They're conducting
They're making me
psychological warfare
soft.
on you.
They're
Yeah.
Yeah, they're making me soft.
That's fun though, man. How have you like changed since doing that? Because you said, you never thought. I mean, a lot of the things that we do in life, we never think that we're gonna do. I'm sitting in a basement talking to a fucking TV screen, doing an interview, from across the country. How much have you? What no changes have you noticed in yourself?
Man, probably the biggest thing that I've been working on is just my patience. When I first showed up, I was very like black or white. And coming from the military, being in charge, this is what I say, go and do it, right? And then, I guess the kids wearing me down over time, realizing that they're children. So kind of putting things into perspective. And so I think for myself, I think I've gotten a lot more fun. I guess you can say like I'm a lot more like relaxed and easygoing guy, but what I've taken opportunity is I've been really, I'm like, I got to teach leadership principles and these leadership things. And so how do I communicate that to children? How do I come up with activities for children? So I got my master's degree in teaching because I don't know anything about teaching. I had a business degree. And so I went and so I got my master's degree in teaching. I took opportunity being in a classroom, talked to the VA and said, hey, let me get trained up on this. And there's this graduate program. I'll get a master's degree, et cetera. And so they agreed to that. And I just graduated last December. So I got to grow myself in that aspect. And then some of the psychological stuff and things that I did learn through that, reading a lot of books on just leadership principles and coming up with ideas of classes that still tie into the curriculum, but are a little bit more geared towards things that would be more relevant to them rather than just the old army presentation of like the definition of leadership, blah 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 blah. And they're like, I don't care. Instead, being able to tie that into something that's a little bit more relevant to them. So I think I've grown in that aspect that I've been reading a lot more. I think I've read 5 books so far this year. So in order to give them the best that I can give them, I'm growing myself spiritually and professionally in order to give them the best that I can give them. So I guess that's what I've been doing.
Do you feel like you're having like more of an influence on the future generation now as opposed to when you were leading soldiers?
Yeah, I do. And just because they're two different dynamics. Like I wouldn't say I was a leader of soldiers per se, just because I went from being a Charlie to a Fox, and then when I was at SWIC, I was mostly just a paper handler. Um, but being able to mentor those students going through the Q course to be successful for the Q course and what I interpreted as being successful on a team is different than taking those previous lessons of my entire life and going to children and saying, these are things I wish I would have learned before I left high school. And when these kids have issues, I can relate, like, this is what I experienced in my life, and this is what I think, this is the counseling that I think you deserve for that. They deal with relationship stuff, they deal with team dynamics, I guess, dealing with conflict resolution and management and communication and things. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I went through. This is how I responded. Whether it's right or wrong, this is what I learned from it, and this is what I recommend to you. Right? What you do with that information, you do with that information. But that's what I would recommend to you. Or even like budgeting. We do a financial endowment class, and I'm like, I lived a life of just making it rain every paycheck. My first deployment, my after my first deployment, I was a single guy. I spent 2 weeks in Hawaii dropping just bills every day, and like I've made a buttload of money and I got stuff to show for it, and I'm like, I'm gonna be working till I die. Let's be real. And but and so I'm like with these kids, I'm like, this is what I wish somebody would have taught me, like budgeting, how to really, manage credit cards, how to invest, all these things. And so I try to just impart on them, like, this is what Sergeant Russell did, and this is how it worked out. You do you kind of thing, but this is what happened to me. And so trying to help them become better people and maybe not, just kind of like being a dad, I guess, just not hoping they don't run into the same issues that I did, or if they do, they know how to go about it.
Like, obviously, different generations and stuff, right? Um, do you think that because people say the next generation's soft or whatever, it's just a different generation, they grew up differently. They have a tremendous access to all of the information ever, right? Just at the click of everything. Do you think that's a positive or negative? Because now they're able to not learn from their mistakes. They'll see these mistakes and then they won't make them, and then they won't gain any like knowledge or life skills. Instead of making their own mistakes, they'll just say, I'm not even going to try. And then they'll just take, you kind of, if you see something and it's going to be a problem, you'll take the easy route, but then you didn't really learn anything, did you? Do you see that happening with kind of the kids now?
Where I'm at, I'm sure that is evident because I see it all the time on the internet, the concerns of other folks. I don't think I particularly see it as an issue, though, where I'm at. There is an issue with AI, um, and there is an issue, and there is I don't want to say an issue, but there is the reality of everything is available at your fingertips. Like I remember, I was talking with a kid recently, and I'm like, when I had to write a paper, I had to go to the library. I had to pull out the little drawers and flip through the freaking cards to
The
figure out where I'm
Dewey
going, and I
Decimal
had,
System.
yeah, and I had to actually like read a book and stuff, and then I had to, and I didn't have AI to cite properly, so I had to learn how to actually do freaking bibliographies and stuff. I had to do it all by hand, and now you can just Google, and I'm like, hell, when I was going through my college and my master's, like write a paper, I write a paper that fast. because all the information's right there. I can, Grammarly helps me with the grammar and everything, and Microsoft Office will write your reference section for you, so I don't have to worry about that. All I got to do is just put it on paper. But I think um, it's just a cultural shift, and the way I see it is that much like I'm sure when the internet was coming around in my teen years, the older generation saw that as being a crutch and something that's going to, maybe cause issues with the same questions that you just asked me. We see today with ChatGPT and these other AI um, applications, but I see them as they're not going anywhere. So I think we should learn how to leverage them for um, for our successes. The question that I always have is how do you do that without making them so reliant on them? How do you give them a paper and ensuring like don't use AI, but you can't guarantee they will or will not.
I would have used it.
But
I know
with
you would have
AI,
used it too.
oh, guarantee I use AI. That's how I write my lesson plans most days is with ChatGPT. And so and so my thing is like I see the older generation being really anti AI, and for good reason. The way I see it is that it's a tool that these kids really need to learn how to leverage because there is an incredible opportunity with it because it can help you be more creative. Like for me, when I'm trying to come up with classes, I go to ChatGPT. I'm not a very creative person, so I'm like, hey, what are some activities I could do with this class? And it pumps out a huge, gigantic list of activities. And I'm like, okay, I like this one. Let's like give me a scenario or write it down or whatever. And it gives me a whole step by step on how to execute. I'm like, great, awesome. So now I have something I can do with the kids. When I do um, my Bearded Master Outdoors and my YouTube channel, it helps me with my SEO, right? It helps me with my keywords and my hashtags so then I can help optimize my content, which is in turn helping my hopefully business grow one day so that it can make me more successful from that aspect. So I think it's a tool that it's a useful tool, and I think they need to be taught how to leverage it appropriately rather than abusing it. I guess is what I'm trying to get after.
Hmm.
What I see mostly with teenage kids is it's just an online popularity contest is what it boils down to, and they're always on Snapchats trying to get their 15 seconds of viral fame, and that's what I mostly see it as. But yeah, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, that's all right. Yeah, it's I see. But what are you hearing? Like, is it becoming a problem that you're hearing at school? Because you're at the school all the time and you talk to other teachers. Is it made its way to where it's becoming a problem with of students learning what they're supposed to be learning?
It has, but the school has blocked the AI programs that they're aware of. There was several instances of uh, kids using AI, not just on the computer, because they'll block it on the computer, but then they'll have it on their phone because Facebook has AI or Snapchat has AI, and you can do the same prompts on there, and then they'll just type it out. So it's trying to so with that they put a block on everything, and of course cell phone blocks and all that other stuff. But um, what I have seen though this year though is that they have for the seniors defenses they have to write the resumes and they had to write out um, a defense of learning that they were going to pitch to business owners in the community of what they have learned throughout their high school career to today and how they can apply it into the workforce and future and stuff. And they did allow them to use AI to help them write that. So I think maybe from that evidence, I think maybe they might be turning into, like I said, like they'll limit access when it's appropriate to use it. But when it comes time for them to apply what they've learned via essay, book report, whatever, then they'll minimize it and monitor it. And they do use the AI detection services, and they do um, punish accordingly for that.
Yeah. I'm not sure what this page was called. I think it's called College is a Joke or something like that. And one clip I saw, the professor's giving a lecture, and this dude's asleep, but he's got his phone up and it's listening to this lecture, and then on his laptop it's writing the cliff notes in bullet letter form of what he needs to study for while that's going on. And the next one was, yes, they had the blocking, the AI blocked, but then they had the student had written a software to block that plot from blocking it so that he could highlight the questions on the test and it would just answer them for him. So, I mean, there's always two sides working against everything to
Well,
it.
and see
So
the
we'll
way
see
I
where it
see
goes.
in the way that I see it as is that that kid's smart enough to do that. So that needs to be so in my opinion, that needs to be that aspect of him needs to be nurtured. Like, yeah, you what you did is like you bypass the entire system, so can't do that. But you have this skill, so we need to like nurture that and build upon it. And that's just how I look at it. But yeah, I mean, I did college online just because I would have done the same thing.
That reminds me, one thing pops in my head was they had some module come out because we had to finish it to get to, I don't know if it was staff sergeant or sergeant, I don't know, something. And I told one guy at the office, I was like, did you get that done? And he's like, yeah. How long did it take you? He goes, like 30 seconds. And it's like, well, it took me a couple hours. And I just click, 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 click. I had to click through. And how did you do it in that fast? He goes, yeah, they didn't protect the code. So I just went into the code and changed it from not completed to completed. And then I saved it, and I was like, that's fucking really? He's like, yeah, they must. And I was, this is on AKO or whatever it was at the time. I was like, that's pretty fucking, I'm not going to fuck with you, dude. But there's people figuring shit out like that too. So I unfortunately will never get to that level of comprehension. So not have to worry about it. Fuck, man. You said brought up your YouTube channel, Bearded Bastard Outdoors, right? Must be a lot of fun for you, taking all the stuff that the Army taught you and you picked up along the way and making videos. Or have you learned to grow into that?
Yeah, so that started many years ago, accidentally. Um, I was when I was that coach for the junior ROTC program I mentioned before. They're like, "Hey, do you know how to do like this survival stuff and land nav stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I do." And they're like, Would you want to teach the kids?" And started with just a day at the park. And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I would teach them shelters and fires and water purification and all that stuff. And then it turned into creating a fieldcraft lane at the annual leadership camp, which was a lot of fun. I'm like, well, hell, if I'm going to be literally teaching hundreds of cadets every year, I better bone up on some of these skills, right? Rather than just the rudimentary stuff, I guess, with magnesium strips and iodine tablets, whatever. I better bone up on some of this stuff. And so it started uh, this obsession with trying to learn as much as I could and practicing and such. And I could never have time or afford to go to courses, so I would watch YouTube videos or read books and go out and try it myself until I can get it, and then put that in the toolbox and then move on and whatever. So I actually learned a lot of the stuff just by doing it myself. But a lot of it, of course, new from my time in the infantry and in special forces. But what's fun about the YouTube channel is that I'll go on and be like, "Hey, here's how you do this," and I'll say something that like counters the bushcraft community or whatever, and it'll piss off everybody. They're like, "How dare you?" Like the little survival kits, right? My first viral YouTube video was these like little survival
Yeah.
kits, right? I'm like, these are a waste of time, and people are like, "Oh, you don't." Some like the SAS created those, and you obviously don't know history about the SAS and blah blah. Blah. I'm like, what do I care? Like, I'm like everything I need should be on me, right? So like, why do I need an Altoids tin full of like fishing hooks or something like? And it didn't make any sense to me. So I'm like, this is what I did in the army and military and whatever. And they're like, where's your credibility? Like, where's all these? Like, you haven't been trained by these bushcraft masters who, like, I'm not trying to take away anything away from them, but I'm like, have you ever slept under a poncho for 2 weeks in the snow? I have, you know, and or when it's a torrential downpour going through the Q course, have you ever slept in a hole while it's raining, like relentlessly? Like I have. Have you ever drank swamp water for weeks on end? I have. And so I'm not saying I'm better than you, but my credibility is that I actually lived the life, whereas you went to a school. and did it for a weekend. And so it's been fun trying to I guess justify myself in that regard. But it's been fun because I get to rehash a lot of skills that I actually really enjoyed learning through SEER school or various other courses, and building upon it, and also teaching other people how to do it. And most of it's not very sexy, like land nav. Like land nav can only be so fun. But when you start talking about camouflage, like because we live in Kentucky, we got a lot of kids who like to hunt, so camouflage is something that's really um, of interest to them. So, we had to make ghillie suits and stuff and kind of teach them principles of camouflage and concealment. And so they have fun with that. But in order to do that, obviously, I got to know what I'm talking about. So it's a lot of fun in that regard. And in fact, it has grown. Next week, I will be leaving for Eastern Tennessee to teach 2 weeks to the Boy Scouts, fieldcraft and some survival stuff there. So it's been fun in that regard.
Are you just on YouTube or do you have an Instagram for that as well?
Not very good with Instagram. I have the YouTube, I have Facebook, and I have a TikTok channel. Um, that I'm not really good with that either, but I try to post stuff on there as often as I can. My thing with it though is the the business the business experts are like, oh, you got to get more consistent. You got to post 5 times a day, and you got to, I don't got time for this. I want it to be fun. I don't necessarily need the money. So I just tell people who try to push me to be more active on the social sides. Like, I'm just trying to have fun. If I make a few bucks, I make a few bucks. But the moment it stops being fun, I'm not going to do it anymore. And I don't want it to be a 9 to 5 job. I just want to go out and be like, this is what I've like. Hey, check this out. If you like it, cool. If not, whatever. And if YouTube or TikTok wants to throw me a few bones, then that's cool too. I'll got buy some steaks or something for the family.
Yeah, man.
But yeah,
It's
I got the TikTok channel um, that it blew up a couple times. Oh, and on there, one of the things I blew up on was I countered Jocko Willick, or Willink, or however you say his name, but he had a clip on there, and I countered that, and it was like, oh, how dare you insult the SEALs? And so that helped my account blow up pretty good, so that was good. Um,
good. Fuck
nothing
yeah, man.
against nothing against him. He just made a comment, and I was like, no, don't do that. um,
There's there's a lot of information out there, and unfortunately, the controversies get more clicks. I
yeah,
I'm finding out. Yeah, and
yeah.
you can't fight. You can fight with people on Instagram in the comments, and you can fight with people on TikTok in the comments, but there is no fighting with people in the comments on YouTube. That's the Wild West out there because you
Well,
you
I
oof.
this one guy or girl, I don't know, came on and
It might not have even been a person. It could have been a Russian bot that you're
yeah.
arguing with.
Well, this person was like, "There's no links in the comments, so this is a worthless video." And I'm like, "So you only come to the videos to click on links?" And so, anyways, it kind of went on because I also understand that the more I engage, the more it's going to boost it in
Yeah.
the algorithm. So I'm like, all right, we'll have fun with this one. And anyways, it got into like how arrogant, blah blah blah, like you piece of shit, like and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, my arrogance knows no bounds, and just going off back and forth. And eventually, I was just like, hey, thanks for boosting the algorithm and helping my video out. And it reached thousands of views. So I was like, hey, thanks. And they ended up like disappearing after that. So so I try to have fun with it, but it's the ones where like the one where I didn't mean to say anything against Jocko. I don't know the guy. I don't really follow him or anything, but he said one thing. I didn't agree with it. So I said, no, I posted my opinion, and oh my God, I couldn't keep up with the hate. I couldn't keep up with it. Like he is an American hero. And I'm like, okay, I still don't agree with him. And I couldn't keep up with it. But so I ended up just shutting it down or
He's
shutting the
got
comments
a
off. I let the video play.
he's got a cult following, very devout, cult-like following almost. Um, but he's
Yeah,
doing something that people that really resonates with them. I mean, I've read his
sure.
first two books. They're very good. Especially the application from the military to the business world. It's very good. Um, but everybody's got their own thing. Like I have my background. I'm like, okay, cool, man. Like, yeah, he can just say it much better than I can. Like, that's cool. We all have the same thing. So good for him. But I haven't come across any of the people that I disagree with yet. I did have a woman on. I posted the episode not yesterday, but a week ago, yesterday, and she had a Ranger Tab infantry officer. She was just proud of what she did. Oh my God, people were losing their minds in the comments,
Guarantee it.
and I was like, man, because previous to that, I think my head had a post that had like 100,000 views and 100 comments, right? Well, this one didn't get very many views. It's only got like 35,000 views, but it's got like 500 comments of dudes just crying in the comments in the comment section. I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Thank you, first off, for I didn't have to boost this post, but thank you. So
Right, right.
it's nuts, man. It's nuts that you can't let people drag you down. That's the main thing is you're doing for you, and I like I can't let them deviate because they'll try and pull you in like that energy
Yeah,
vampire. It's like I'm here for me, like to do what I want to do. Like if you're not part of that, go fuck off, right?
yeah,
I'm just trying to
yeah.
help people. It's not like you're trying to hurt people with your content or anything like that. Um, but I saw your video with the little survival kits, and those are like they're a one size fits all sort of thing, right? They're because that's what you buy this and you have it on your thing, but that's not personalized to you and where you'll be and where you'll go. So what are you recommending people have then?
So in the bushcraft community, you have you have a thought methodology, I guess, for um, equipment. It's like the 5 C's or the 10 C's, and I don't I don't necessarily subscribe to it. I don't I be just because like I can't ever remember what the C's are, and my
10,
brain's too
10 C's
smooth
is
in
a
that
lot
regard.
of C's
I
if
know.
it's 10.
I'm like there's a cat in there, I think, but I don't know. But the way I think about back again to my 18 Charlie days, I had to make the packing lists for deployments, So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, combat. If we're on a combat patrol, head to toe, starting with my head, I have my helmet. On my helmet, I have my night vision mount for my night vision. And then, on my head, I have my Peltors and I have my iPro. And then, and I have this this method, methodical approach to the way that I would write these packing lists that worked for me. And so when it comes to the bushcraft stuff, I think about priorities of work: fire, shelter, water, and food. Um, and so when I pack, I try to focus instead of 5 C's, 10 C's, 20 C's, whatever it is. It's just those four things. And when it comes to and then when it comes to the actual equipment, trying to have multi-purpose. And so, anyways, so in that video, what I tried to explain is that if you want to do these one size fits all gear, have at it, right? But for fire, for example, what I try to teach my kids is like I have for fire, I also have my pace plan, my primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency, right? So I'm like, what's my primary means of fire starting? And they're like, a lighter. And I'm like, yeah, because that just makes sense that my primary source is a lighter. What would be my alternate? Well, it'd probably be a ferro rod, magnesium strip, matches, whatever it is, right? Go down this list of redundancy. So on and then I try to tell them, I'm like, well, am I going to have all of this on my person, in my pocket, or in my rucksack? And so what I try to teach people is that I try to think about it. If I fall into a frozen river and I have to get a fire going, well, one thing, a cold frozen lighter needs some work to get lit, right? Or even a magnesium strip. As I'm shivering, I'm not going to be able to shave off all of those flakes to get to, right? And same thing with matches. So I'm like, on me personally, what I would carry on my person is a ferro rod, right? Ferro rod works dry, wet. I pull it out, strike it, I'm good to go. And then in my pack, in a waterproof container, I have my lighter, I have my matches, I have all my other stuff. But that way, if I get separated from my gear, I still have a reliable source of fire. And it's in my pocket. It's not in an Altoids can or a Copenhagen can or whatever. It's in my pocket, tied to, secured to my belt loop or something. And so that's what I try to impart is that these one size fits all, I don't agree to with them. because I should already have on my person what I need. Like I have a knife on, I have fire starter on me, I have, on my boots, I have paracord for my boot laces, right? Or bank line, whatever. And then in my pack, I have, double combat load of ammunition. I have 5,000 feet of paracord. I have everything else I need in my pack. But if I get separated from them on my person, I still have everything I need to be successful, at least to get to wherever I need to go. And so what I tell people is just think about it like that. It lightens your load and it makes it a little bit more personalized to what you need to do versus, like I said, those Altoid sized tins that have, the trap wire and fishing hooks and all that, which are fine, but like, why do you need to have that on you at all, like all the time, if you're just going out, hunting, whatever, or
Yeah.
so that's just
Prepare
what I
for
was
the
trying to
correct
get
situation.
onto.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
be
I
ready
mean,
for
just
the
I
situation
guess
you find
it's
yourself
mission
in. Yeah.
dependent.
Yeah.
Mission dependent. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I guess that's what I'm trying to get to is I try to tell them it's mission dependent. You're going to the Rockies or you're going to the Everglades. Do you need a down jacket to go to the Everglades? No, right? So just being a little bit more mission dependent and personalized.
That's that old op order cop out question. When somebody asks you a question you don't know, oh, sir, that's Met TC. We're
Met
just going
TC.
to be mission.
Oh
So
God.
you brought up knives. Yeah, oh, yeah. You brought up knives. So where does your forge fit into all this?
So after I was medically retired, um, I fell into this big depression, and 15 years, I didn't understand why why I was being separated. Like why I had a heart attack, and I was 31 years old, had a heart attack, and medically retired, and I had a degree. At the time, I spoke three languages. I couldn't get a call anywhere for an interview. So my world was spiraling out of control. And I fell into this bad depression where like it was hard for me to even get out of bed. Like, cause it was like, why? What's the point? Find it. I did find work and it was in sales. And so I had to deal with customers, which I was like, oh, I'll be fine with that. And I realized I am not a customer service person. And I had to deal with this one guy. Oh my God. He was the worst. He was so bad. I used to joke with my boss at the time. I'm like, I've jumped out of planes. I've been blown up. I've been in firefights. I've done this and been relatively, fine. It is what it is, right? And dealing with this guy, the stress would like pile up so much. I'd literally like twitch at the thought of his name. His phone number would like pop up on my phone and I just immediately just start like twitching, right? And I had no outlet. I would just be like, "Oh, this fucking guy." I went and it was so bad. I'm like, I'm not even joking. It was so bad. I went to a neurologist because I thought there was something wrong with me. And I'm like, I'm getting like Parkinson's or something. And I went to a neurologist, and they're like, "No, it's just stress." And they like put me on like Zoloft for the stress, and that didn't do anything. That made me sick. And I was like, I don't want to be on meds for the rest of my life. I'm already on heart meds and all this stuff. I don't want to be on meds for the rest of my life. But I was just like, it was getting worse. Anyways, I looked on a YouTube video one time on like making knives with like Harbor Freight tools, and I was watching it, and I'm like, I got all that minus the forge. So I'm like, I got all those tools. I think I can do that. So I made this. So I did, and I made this like little itty bitty skinning knife, and I was so proud of it, man. I was like, I mean, I was out there late. It wasn't like there was no sanding, nothing. It was all with files, like old school, I guess. Files and like those grinding wheels. Um, and I was out there. This was like July, so I'm just covered in sweat in my shop because it's 1,000 degrees and I have no air in there. Um, Anyways, I made this knife and I thought it turned out just awesome, just beautiful. And then I posted on Facebook like, "Hey, check out this knife I made." And people were like, "Oh, can I have one? Can you make me one?" And I'm like I don't have any idea what I'm doing. I don't know if this thing's reliable or not, right? And they're like, "Oh, I don't care, just make me one." I'm like, all right. So I started making these knives, and then people are like, "Can you make me this knife?" And I was like, sure. And they're like, "Can you make me this knife?" And anyways, these people started throwing these ideas at me and these custom orders and whatever. And again, I'm like, well, if I'm gonna if people are going to be buying these, I better get hot on how to do all this stuff. So I found a mentor, and I spent the day with him trying to learn as much as I could. And then my wife bought me, metallurgy books, and I started reading those and and watching YouTube videos, YouTube University, on how to properly like heat treat and all this stuff. Anyways, it turned into this thing, and I wanted to start this last year. I wanted to start taking it seriously, but what I ran into was that Bearded Bastard Outdoors, although a cool name that resonates with like a lot of military folks and veterans, a lot of people were turned off by the name just because of it says bastard in it. And so for a marketing thing, I changed it to McGeezy Knives, which is um, Ojibwe for eagle, so eagle knives, and that's just family oriented and heritage and stuff like that. And it started to go up. But yeah, I'm just trying to make these knives. And anyways, back to the story. This guy is making me twitch, right? And so I make this knife, and the twitching goes away. And I realized that whenever it became my outlet, my PTSD treatment, I guess you can call it. And I would get agitated, angry, sad, whatever. I would just go out to my forge and just, bang on some steel, work on a knife, whatever. And I would listen to podcasts or listen to music while I do it. And everything would just, like, I'd be out there and all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta go to bed, and like the world would just disappear for that moment, and it became just such a life-saving um, outlet for me. And I've had the privilege of inviting several veterans out to my forge, one or two at a time, and just spending a day with them and banging out a knife and sharing it with them. And so what I'm hoping to do is expand on that, build my forge up, so then I can get more equipment, maybe better facility, so that I can start hosting more and more classes. That's my ultimate goal. Is I don't care about $1 million. I just want to be able to build a forge big enough with enough anvils, enough forges and whatever, that I can start bringing out more veterans and actually doing like classes and stuff. So that's the goal with that.
Yeah, man. Well, we got to get you more spun up on Instagram for that. Then people love the pictures and to see what you're doing and things like that. At least that's what
every
I'm
day
finding
I'm out
out. So
every day I'm out there. I'm like working. I'm like, I got these smart glasses for the purpose that I can just go click and it'll take a picture of whatever I'm looking at, right? And I'm like, I bought these damn things. I never wear them. And and I'm out there just working on a knife, and I'm like, man, this looks beautiful, and I don't take a picture of it. Like, I'm the worst. I'm the worst at all that. So I definitely got to get better at it.
yeah, you do, and then if you get going and you can use my followers, because that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to get a page where I'm trying to collect all the special operations people into what's my page. It's going to take me a while, but I want to get everybody, so that then, hey, if you got something you're working on, send it to me. I'll share it to my stories, or I'll collaborate with a post on you so people can see. That's my hope with what I'm doing. So I'm more
That'd be
on
great.
when I got hurt, I became the guy that, oh, Nick will help you out, right? Nick will get that done for you. So that's kind of where my career has pushed me, and that's what I'm going to try and lean into now. So any way I can help you, just let me know.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And you cranked out a book. So did you write the book after you got out, and now you're improving on it, right? So you got your first draft, and now you're going to lean more into it.
Yeah. So I wrote. So yeah. So I wrote a book. God didn't create you to suck. And that was. I turned. Well, let's see. So I mentioned that when I got out of the military, I was in this bad depression, and then I found knife making, and it really mellowed out the PTSD monkeys on my back. And then I started to expand. And really, what it is I found faith. Um, I had what I believed was an absolute God moment. Um, and and I just went with it, and I started to when I was driving around when I was working for this company. I would drive around all day, and I would have all these like questions and thoughts and whatever. So I'd be like, I guess, meditating and talk myself through all these things. Anyways, I realized that I cannot believe for the life, or I can't believe that you and I, out of the billions of people in this world, despite whatever circumstances we find ourselves in, are here for absolutely zero reason, right? We have something to offer. whatever that may be. And we have something that we give to other people. So I had this thought that, musicians don't make music for no ears to hear, and an artist doesn't paint a picture for no eyes to see, kind of thing. So I took this theory that, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ever come up with it, but for me, I took it as, whatever our gifts are, our reason of being is supposed to be shared with other folks. And we are this unique creation that, again, despite our circumstances, we can create our own reality in that regard, around whatever our gifts may be, whether it's podcasting or teaching or whatever. We can create this world that we can create it as joyful or as gloomy as we want, basically. And so I meditated on that for a long time, and I cranked out this book, 30 some pages, about just what it turned out to be was just the ramblings of a man just figuring it out for himself, right? And just rambling on for like 30 some pages. And some people liked it. Um, I've had pretty positive reviews on it, but I wasn't proud of it, like looking back on it, and because people would ask me about it, and like one of my cadets bought the book. I was like, oh, that's cool. It's like, why don't you tell people about this? Like, I'm not really proud of it. Just like I said, it's more like rambling than anything, offering any sort of value. And so I met this lady, and she's an author, and she lives locally, but she works for Angel Studios, which is the same studios that brought out The Chosen, which I love that show. And so I would talk to her because her son's actually one of my cadets. And so I talked to her. I'm like, oh man, I love this show, you know. And I'd listen. I'd ask her about what it's like, because to be a part of this production. And I told her, I'm like, hey, I wrote this book. I've been wanting to rewrite it. You're an author. I don't know how to write a book, and I don't want it to be a self-published Amazon book. Like, I want it on the shelves of like Barnes and Noble, Walmart, whatever, right? I actually want to be published and on the shelf, right? And so she agreed. She's like, yeah, just send me what you got as you write it, and I'll look over it, whatever. So anyway, I'm rewriting it now, and it's beyond 34 pages now. But what I'm hoping is that what it's going to entail is that not only that philosophy that I mentioned before, but a lot of other things that I learned from being in special forces, like, the whole follow the cones thing, right? I tell my kids, like, all you got to do is make it to the next cone, right? Your knee hurts, make it to the next cone. You're tired, take a knee, rucksack flop for a minute, but then get up and get to the next cone, right? When we do our Raider event and they're running, and I'm like, and you see the turn, and you'll see like a flag. I'm like, you just got to make it to that flag, right? And so I use that kind of mentality. And then, a few other things I learned from special forces: perception perceived is reality indeed, and a bunch of other learned lessons, and from my time on the teams and on deployments and such, that I'm trying to relate um, to a growth mindset and an open mindset to, whatever it is that someone might be going through in a similar circumstance, where you're circling the drain, is, just, hey, you're not the only one going through this, and there's something that you have right now that you can leverage to share to other people, to help pull you out of that and get you back in an environment where you can start to rebuild yourself, I guess, or you can create that, or you can have that life that you do wish. And it may not be what you thought it was going to be, right? Like, I was like, oh, I'm going to make millions of dollars. And, I'm very happy not making millions of dollars. Being a teacher, something I never thought I would ever do, and definitely not making millions of dollars. But I am so happy, right? And it's because I get to lean on the identity that I developed through being on teams and stuff, of being that kind of mentor, that NCO, that instructor, that, the big daddy on a team that I always wanted to be. And now I get to be that, because that's just who I feel like I am. And so I get to build upon that. And that's kind of what the book is, circles around and points to. So obviously it's a work in progress, but I hope next spring it'll be on the shelves at your local bookstore.
Yeah, man. We'll have you back on. We'll do a short episode for an episode release, or for a book release or something like that, so we can get you a little bit more
Awesome.
promo. However I can help, I will too. I mean, tonight I'll be talking about your YouTube channel on my stories when I do my wrap up for the day. So
Awesome.
However, I
Thank you.
can help you, you got to let me know because that's what this whole fucking thing is all about. That's what lesser known operators is all about. I want to be the show for special operations to help everybody out, just like Sergeant Major and Commander did for me. So whatever I fucking can do to help anybody out, um, now that I've got my shit semi together, I want to do everything I can for anybody that was in the special operations community or adjacent, even. But yeah, you're right. It's you got to find your place in the community, and you lose that community that we're forced to be in the military. Right? We're there under contract. And that's good sometimes because your friends are forced to hang out with you. You're forced to go hang out with them. Uh, you're kind of forced to maintain a physical standard and a bearing, a military bearing at all times. And then all those things kind of go away, especially when you get
Hmm.
medically retired. I went through that.
Yeah.
Fucking sucks. Let's see what it took me. Uh, like 5 years, 5-ish years to, kind of start to level out. Most of that was stopping drinking. That was really the big one. Now that
Yeah.
I stopped after that,
Hmm.
and that's, from talking to another guy, that drinking, that's like the last vestiges of the team room, right? Or military life that you're trying to hold on to. You don't want to let it go. But yeah, now I'm sober now and trying to find my place in the community. And if you don't have a community, you got to build your own. Like you're building your channel and you're getting veterans to come out and make knives with you. That's fucking awesome, man. That's got to feel
And
pretty
see, and
good
that's
having,
and
yeah,
and that's the point is you're creating your world, and because you were Sergeant Allen Green Beret, and I was Sergeant Russell Green Beret, and now we have to discover who Nick is and who Patrick is and whoever else is. And so what you're saying right there is on point. Like you're through your podcast and building your community, you're building you're recreating your world in your identity and stuff. And so that's kind of the whole point of that book. So no, so you're hitting it on the head.
yeah. It's unbelievable. Like I had less than 10 Green Berets in my phone January 1st. I got 100 now. And then I've got like I can get a hold of anybody now on Instagram, like anybody I want to. I'm one connection away from fucking anybody to the biggest influencers. Like I've met people that are friends now with one person away from the biggest military influencers there are. It's in just a few months. So it's like this crazy thing. Like if you work at it and that's what you want, well, you can do it. I'm being a little obsessed with it, so I'm pushing up the timeline. But that's kind of what we did, right? Like you kind of got to be a little nuts to go be a Green Beret or go do some of these things. There's a cost to pay for it. It's a fucking cool benefit, but there is a cost that you pay for it. But so what got you out of your hometown and into the military in the first place to start this journey?
Oh, it was 9/11. I'm originally from Montana, and I remember when 9/11 happened and the rally behind that. I was 16, I think, when it happened, 16 or 17, whatever. But all of my friends like immediately were like joining up, and I just felt it was the right thing to do. Of course, I come from a military family, so I was planning on joining the military anyways. But I'm growing up in Montana, it was very boring. So I'm like, I craved adventure, so I was going to join the military regardless. And then when 9/11 happened, I was like, I remember I went to basic AIT, and then I started college because I was like I was going to try to go to college, and something happened in Iraq, and I put my pen down. I looked at the person next to me. I'm like, you know what? Fucking out of here. And I put my pencil down, and I walked right out of my midterm, and I went to my recruiter because I was in the reserves at the time, and I went to my recruiter. And I was like, I want to go active. I want to go active duty. I want to switch over to active duty. I want to be an airborne ranger, and I want to learn another language. And he's like, well, Rangers don't offer language training, but Green Berets do. And I was like, fucking whatever, dude. Like, get me out of here. And so I ended up in with an 18 X-ray contract, and ended
Oh,
up
what
in
what year is this?
that was '05.
Oh,
Um,
the worst
'04,
year.
oh yeah, '04 or '05, and I ended up at Fort Bragg and Sopsey, and just getting like just my fucking soul crushed daily. And I still tell people about those days. And needless to say, I didn't make it at the time. I just did not have what it took. So I ended up in the infant, and so I ended up at replacement for the 82nd, and but they were starting up this unit up in Alaska, this new airborne brigade, and so they come in and they're like, your orders are for Alaska, your PCS into Alaska. And I was like, okay. So I was like one of like the first 500 people to set up this brigade. And within a year, we were deployed. And like, and just to kind of give you an idea of what that was like, the first time I ever put on night vision was in Kuwait, and and like pulling out the saw. I was a saw gunner and pulling out my brand new saw out of the package, still had the bluing and the grease on it while I was like boarding the plane to Kuwait. Um, and then they, and so you're thinking like, oh, we're a new unit. They'll, we'll get a kind of a cush deployment. It's like, no, they threw us in the Anbar province right outside of Fallujah. And so that was fun. And anyways, so I went through that deployment, and then I ended up in we're ending up getting ready for Afghanistan in like 08, 09. And we were at NTC, and at this time, like there was some strife going on amongst me and some of the infantry leadership. And I remember being at NTC, and we were on one of these little cops, these little fob or little OPs type deals, and there was an SF team co-located with us, and we were out there. The whole thing's over with. We're picking up brass, right? And everyone's picking up brass, and not all, but there was some NCOs. They're kind of like leaning up against a Humvee, like ha ha ha, eating an orange and throwing the peels out, like, hey, private, you missed one, ha 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 ha. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? Um, like these fucking guys, like I remember when they were privates, you know what I'm saying? And anyways, I looked over at the SF team, and every single one of them was down on the ground picking up brass and trash. And, all 10 of them, whatever, from team leader down to the newest guy. And I remember going, that's what I want to be a part of. And so I got back from NTC. I called up the SF recruiter because I had previously put in a packet, but I busted my ankle. And I was like, hey, is my packet still good? And he's like, yeah, I just need a PT test. So I just walked straight into a platoon sergeant's office and grabbed the PT book. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to selection.
Yeah.
And anyways, went to selection, and I was good that time. I was good, made it obviously by the skin of my teeth, I'm sure. I remember I got back to my unit and they're like, "So were you selected?" And I was like, "Sure was." And I already had my ATARS date from the Q course, so that negates me from deployments, right? And so I'm like, "Yep." And here's my ATARS orders for the Q course, so I'm not deploying with you. And like the next day, I was med boarded for hearing. I lost because I got blown up in my time in Iraq, and I lost significant hearing in my right ear. And so I was like, "Yep, I'm going to the Q course." And they're like, next day they're like, "Nope, you're getting med boarded." I'm like, "God damn it." So, anyways, that was a battle to get to the Q course, but anyways, ended up at fifth group. Couldn't, and that's exactly where I wanted to be. Wanted to be with fifth group just because of their lineage, their history, and I've been here. I've been here now. Oh, 15 years of just about. So just love the area, and don't plan on going back. So,
Fuck yeah, man. It was interesting, and I was trying to remember um, who I was talking to see if you knew him. But um, I had the other side of this conversation with somebody the other day and I asked him. I said, did you SOPC in I think 2005? I was talking to somebody, and I'm like, well, what did you know of anybody that got dropped or didn't make it that actually became Green Berets in the end? And he says, I don't know, but everybody was going to Alaska. I remember. And so was I talking to one of the guys that was in the gig pit with you, and then you went to Alaska, and then you took the long way around and made it to group. So that's pretty funny.
you know, it's it's funny as I told this story about doing PT. It was when I was an instructor at the that student company, and I remember telling a story about doing PT, and I'm like, there was this one guy, this one Mexican guy, right? We would just spoke very broken English. He's like, we're gonna go on a run, men. We're gonna go on a run. We're gonna keep up, and we're gonna run, and we're gonna do something. And we just go take off, right? And I'm like, we're running those sand trails, like 5 minute pace. Like, oh my god, and this guy, he does not look like he's in any sort of shape, right? So I'm like, oh, this is gonna be an easy run, and we're like 5 minute pace, like, oh my god, just sucking and barely keeping up. And then we'd stop, and he's like, all right, we're gonna do the sit up, and he's like, up, down, up, down, but then it go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, and the unassisted sit-ups, right? And I'm like, there ain't no way that this guy's doing sit-ups that fast. And I glance over at him, and he's just over on his side, just like eyeballing everybody, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm like, holy crap. We get up and we run, and then we stop again, and the same thing with the push-ups, and he's like, down, up. And after a while, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm like, ain't no way. And I look at him, he's just stone cold, just cranking them out. I'm like, oh my God. And anyways, I'm telling this story, and all of a sudden this dude walks by my office door, and we kind of lock eyes, and I'm like, it's him. And he was the S3 warrant. He was the battalion warrant officer. I'm like, that's the guy. That's him right there. And so that was funny. He's like, I remember you, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. So, but yeah, that was the guy, and now he's a warrant officer. We're friends now, so it's kind of funny how that worked out. But then we get to talking about how the Q course kind of morphed into what it was, and I'm like, yeah, man, like you guys used to like, they literally stood up and was like, we are not TRADOC. We don't care if you fucking die. Right? While
Yeah.
we're getting our intro to SOPSI, they had this big binder, and they're like, rule number one. And they're like, you will stand at parade rest and blah, blah, blah. They'll push up, and they're like things this thick, and they're smoking us in between every rule. And they're like, we don't care if you fucking die. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? And anyways, but yeah, and then compared to what the Q course is now, which that's a different argument for a different day. But we're like, he's like, yeah, but look at you, you turned out okay, you're a badass, and I'm like, yeah, I guess.
SOPC and the Q course are not the same thing. Like they're not like this. No, like you can be a stud in the Q course, but a peon in SOPC. Like, but it just depends on the day, right? Like you're just getting the
Yeah,
shit smoked out of you for somebody didn't remember to bring their white socks to the layout, and it's everybody's problem. So they're gonna shit on you all day or something like that. So, um, that's fucking yeah rough. I have a it's an over most. I wouldn't say most. I'm leaning towards like 35% of the people I have on this show went to SOPC from 2004 to 2008 or somewhere right close to there. And so I'm
so
sure that
it's
some. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say another with that, the what's his name, Jim Martin or something like that. I think his name's or Joe Martin, and we had connected like several years later because I had a friend named Joe Martin, so I thought it was him, and so we connected on Facebook, and I'm like, you're not Joe, you're not the Joe I was thinking of, but he wrote that book, How to Get Selected,
Mm.
and so I read that book, and then all of a sudden he was the one he was the mastermind behind the SOPSI thing, and so I'm like this was you, like oh my God, this was the most worst thing ever I had ever experienced. It was terrible. Anyways, yeah, good
Yeah, you
times.
guys can keep it. It's terrible. Like what was it like now because you joined? What were why was it like revenge or is it like patriotic? I got to do something, or what was your purpose of going in and because you made that decision in class and you're like fuck this? Was it I just don't want to do this while that is going on and sit here and like was it fear of missing out or what?
I felt at that point, I'm like there's people dying in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I'm here taking a math test. And so I think at that point it was just like a sense of obligation. My dad wanted me to be an officer. For example, my dad wanted me to be an officer, but I'm like, I don't want to be an officer because I want to be in the trenches with the guys, you know. And if we're gonna go to war, we're gonna go. I want to be boots on the ground in it. And so I think at that point, like I said, there was something going on in Iraq. I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, there's these people, there's these men and women dying, so I can sit here taking a math test. And I just kind of went, what am I doing? So I guess it became a sense of obligation because of what did occur on 9/11. I mean, thousands of Americans killed. There was that sense of like vengeance, I guess, of wanting to get those assholes and kind of put them in their place and wipe them off the face of the planet. And so yeah, so I'd already made the determination I was going to go in for the sake of going in, but then when that happened, that kind of solidified that um, I guess, moral obligation to uh, avenge those who lost their lives, I guess.
Do you feel like, I was kind of skipping ahead, but did you do that? Did you accomplish that throughout your whole career, or was that just a kind of a kid's um, dream?
So, my when I was in the infantry, I don't feel like that was satisfied. I will say that from the bigger picture, maybe, just because I know we killed the top AQI guys, and eventually Osama bin Laden got took out, but I think at the time I didn't feel like what we were doing was making that difference. I guess. Um, but what I will say is when I got into special forces and when ISIS became a thing, man, like that was finally like I felt like I was getting after it and and doing what I signed up to do, and we're taking the fight to them rather than being reactive and whatever and raiding empty house by empty house and whatever. We were actually like getting after it and creating an environment where they couldn't operate and they could get took out, and they eventually did, and so that was awesome. So, but I think at the end of the day, I'm proud of what I did, but um, I think a lot of it, looking back, was just kind of I find myself often just looking back and going, what was the point? Why did I just posted on my Facebook? My first deployment, we lost 53 people. Like was their death in vain, or did we do something that was worthwhile? Every survivor's remorse, I think, is what it boils down to. Is did it really matter, kind of thing? And maybe it did, maybe it didn't, and history will tell. But at the moment, I think it's just one of those, like I said, survivor remorse, just wondering if all of it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to reconcile with that. You don't, but you weren't at the position to make choices or anything. We just did what we were told to do. But then you get to a point where you feel like you're making a difference. That's a lot of work to get there. So yeah, there's a lot to go into it, and especially this weekend, right?
Right.
This episode will come out much later, but it's Memorial Day weekend this weekend. So everybody's always, if you're not thinking about it, but you jump on social media, there's something that's going to remind you about it. And so you always get to
Yeah.
thinking about everybody that's not around. I have a uh, speech on Monday at the parade here, just a couple towns over. So usually have a full beard, but I'm just did the first shave last night to cut down so that I can get down to put my uniform on. So didn't want to have a full beard in uniform, and somebody. That fear of people getting in the comments of somebody seeing me in uniform and going, "What a shitbag!" Like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Right.
I'm at a Memorial Day celebration, but so you got to Alaska. Well, what are you thinking then? Because I mean, did you have it in your mind? You're like, when I can, I'm going to go back to the Q course, or were you? How did you feel at that point?
I didn't have it in my mind that I was going to go back, just because I think I was dealing with I really sucked. So, and those guys are like way more awesome than I could be. But I was just going to do what I had to do. Um, and then I was just going to see what was going to happen. And there was a part of me that I was going to do this. I was just going to finish out this deployment and this contract and get out, and then maybe go back to school and do that thing. Um, but I had met my current wife while I was up there, and it kind of changed gears. And I'll tell you what, I think what it was when we were getting ready to go to, well, like I said, when we were getting ready to go to Afghanistan, and I saw those guys at NTC, that team there, I'm like, I don't want to go to Afghanistan with these people, and I kept thinking about how bad Iraq was. Like, I don't want to go to Afghanistan with these guys. And I had very low confidence that I would make it back. You know what I mean? And so I talked with the wife, and I'm like, obviously special forces was always was on my mind at that time, and I was like, I'd like to go try again. I tried before, I didn't make it. I'd like to go try again now that I'm older, and I have some more experience. I think I have more I can bring to the table, and so I talked with the wife, and she was on board, and so like literally less than a month later, I was gone for selection. So it wasn't that
And,
much train up or that much build up at all. I was
and
like,
you
get me
don't
on the
have to
next
do
plane out of
SOPSI,
here.
right? You don't have to do
Yeah,
SOPSI.
I
It's
didn't have
just
to do
right to
SOTC.
selection.
Well, I was thinking, I'm like, what do they do in selection? They ruck, they run. I'm a paratrooper. I do that anyways, right? And so I was like, oh, I should be fine. And oh boy, I obviously was fine, but by the skin of my teeth, I'm sure. So it was a good time.
Well, yeah, good. But you made it. You still made it. That's, I mean, fucking great in
Oh yeah,
itself. Like,
D's make degrees. So
it's absolutely true. Just if you don't believe that statement, go to the VA and try and get some medical care. There'll be conflicting opinions on what's wrong with you or what needs to be done. And I don't somehow none of them will be correct. But
that's right.
you
But I
said
was
you
actually
said
but oh, I was going to say I was
go.
actually the 2 weeks in hell class. So now that I'm the instructor with JROTC, the kids want to when they do like veteran presentations. This one girl last year, she was like, "Hey, can I interview you for our veteran presentation?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And so I was like, "You know what? I got this bootleg copy of 2 weeks in hell that my aunt like burned off of the Discovery Channel when it was live. I'm like, let me see if I can get some video footage or whatever." And so I'm watching it and I'm like, oh my God, like how the hell did I get through that? And thinking about it today, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'd be able to do that today. But it was kind of cool to look back on that. But yeah, I was the 2 weeks in hell class too.
Really, that's interesting because that gets brought up a lot on here as that show, was the only basis for guys training for years and years until after into the teens when guys started get out and getting training programs on how to get selected because there was that book, right, how to get selected, but that's a book. Nobody fucking wants it. Doesn't tell you the story like a video does. And I used to remember because I went in January of 12, and I watched 2 weeks in hell, and that's like, oh, okay, it's gonna be this. And I just remember sitting on my bunk like bored at selection. It was fucking hard. Like it sucked, right? But I just
You had a
remember,
bunk?
well, we were in not the bunk, the cots, right, in those half
Oh,
domes. Where
okay.
was because we're no, the bunks came 3 years, I think, after I went is when they built the barracks and stuff. But I was sitting on my cot in the half domes going, this isn't like the show. There's a lot of downtime here. And you're like half of selection is trying to not fall asleep because if you get caught
Mhm.
sleeping, you're gonna get bounced and shit like that. So you're just fucking miserable, tired, and you're like, "Fuck, I just can't sleep."
Well, see, and that's what it was like in '05 or whatever. They had selection in these like white huts or whatever on McCall. SUT, I think, was in the half rounds or something like that. But selection was in these like little white buildings that was across from uh, the Chow Hall area right there, and that's what a lot of it was like. Was just like sitting on your bunk, don't go to sleep, and because people were like, yeah, bring a book, you'll have plenty of times to read a book or whatever. So, but when I got there and it was like go go go, I was like, oh shit. So,
Well, they had film crews there, too. So
mhm.
your class might have been complete because your class, because that didn't come out too long or too far before I went because that was in 2010, right?
It was 2009.
2009. Okay, so not that too, but um, yeah, that it must have been different, and they were changing the course around at that time because it was 3 weeks when we went through. Not saying it was any harder or less hard. One was harder than the other. Where they all fucking blow. Um, the only thing they change is the last day sometimes, and I don't know what they do now. But they're in barracks now, which personally, I think the half dome tents, shitty half dome tents, is the way to go. Not the old World War II metal skin barracks, but the shitty half dome tents is the way to have selection. But that's personal preference for what I think, because it fucking sucks. But as we talked earlier about YouTube and SEOs. So I gotta have some clickbait. So you're gonna be the 2 weeks in hell Green Beret. No, I'm joking. So I'm gonna have to see what ChatGPT says about that to try and drive up some clicks or something like that.
The Hollywood Green Beret.
Hollywood Green Beret. I actually just did recently interviewed an actor that was a Green Beret. But you said Iraq sucked with your unit. Why did it suck so bad that enough to where you're like, I don't want to go back to combat with these idiots? Because I kind of know because I was in a regular Army unit, and it's it's not as great as it sounds.
I think it's just because it's and I don't want to use the word idiots, but I think it was just because it's a bunch of kids mostly, and I know how I was, um, but I do know, oh man, there was the whole hierarchy, I guess, that I had issues with, where I just felt like I just got shit on because I was a lower enlisted all the time, and I don't know, maybe I just don't handle authority well. But I didn't feel a part of any sort of team. I didn't feel like there was any part of team dynamic. I really didn't feel like there was anybody who really gave a shit about me. Um, I was just a number. I mean, I had a lieutenant literally call me a pawn one time, which I was like, oh, okay. So and then I had a captain who would never, for the life of him, remember my name. And so there's just a bunch of like little things that I didn't feel like I said, I didn't feel like anyone would have given a shit about little, specialist Russell at the time. And especially if we are in Afghanistan, I just felt like it was more of, I saw a lot of glory hogging, I guess, or putting up on pedestals. And there's just a like bunch of little things that just added up to where I don't want to do another deployment with these guys. And the and I'll tell you that that whole coin thing came out where when we were at NTC, we were taking fire from a building, and so we did the Iraq thing where we kicked down the door and cleared out the house. And they're like, the OCs are like, wait, you can't do that. The new doctrine says you have to knock. And I'm like, they're shooting at us. And so that was like, so we can't take down someone who's shooting at us because of this new touchy feely doctrine. And then I remember we went out one time and the OC's throwing the arty sims out, and of course, like, I'm with my platoon sergeant at the time, and we're like trying to get out of 12 o'clock 300 meters, and the captain's like, no, hold your position, because we're in a blocking position. It's like, no, hold your position, and the OC's like just throwing arty sims, and he's like, you're all dead, like you're all dead. And so that was like, I'm gonna die. I'm probably gonna die if I go on this trip. So uh, yeah, just a bunch of
Do
things
you
that
know how
added
they
up.
did? Do you know how they did
I
on their
do,
deployment?
I do. There is actually a YouTube video, attack on the 4th of July, where my company's cop was massively attacked on the 4th of July, and they fucking handled business. So that was pretty awesome seeing them just they took two casualties, which of course is super sad. But I mean, they tried to take him out and they handled some business. So I'm proud of them for that, for sure. And then that was also I was rear D NCO waiting to go to the Q course, and um, it happened to be the time that Bo Bergdahl in processed into the unit. And then I remember I was the in processing guy. So I'm like, okay, here's your appointment here. Here's your appointment. And holding these guys' hands while they're going through CIF and all these things, and then sending them out to their units. And then, a couple of weeks later, it's like, oh, Bo Bergdahl, POW. I'm like, what? I'm like, he was just here. And so then that deployment turned into, um, on our end, relatively quiet too. I did more memorials than I care to have ever done. Because while they were out looking for Bo Bergdahl, they was just taking casualties left and right, and so um, it turned into I guess a somber deployment regarding that. And I know a bunch of people who are super bitter about that whole episode.
There's people that are bitter about it that aren't even associated with the unit or anything. It's just because then you know people know the tagline or just what happened, but then you start getting into all the people that fucking died going to look for that ass hat.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember being at fifth group, and they're like, well, they're doing the casualty details or the funeral details that you get tasked with periodically, and they're the one guy who was in charge of it is never done one before, and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to walk him through. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. He's like, how do you know all this? I'm like, I've done more memorials than I care to admit, more firing squad detail than I care to admit. So like I'll walk you through how to do it. So, and it was all because of that deployment. Those guys looking for Bo Bergdahl. It was like another freaking memorial. Like every few weeks, and Sarah Palin coming down and all this stuff. So it was quite the few months.
That's rough, dude. You said you didn't feel like it was, and this is in garrison or in training, but you didn't feel like it was you fit in or not a cohesive unit. Maybe. Do you think that was something that there was no lineage to the unit? Because you said it was brand new when you got there, so there's no prior history. So maybe it just didn't. There's no generational pride. I think being passed
That could
down.
be. That could be. I mean, their lineage comes from World War II, the 509th, and really awesome history during World War II. Did the first combat jump in the war. I know 82nd gets that credit mostly, but they did. But it was them into uh, the name escapes me, but into Africa. Um, and but that could be it. But what I saw, and looking back, I was just a kid, and probably woe is me, nobody wants to be my friend, kind of thing. Um, now that I'm much older and wiser, I could be like, yeah, I could see how maybe I probably, some of it was probably self-inflicted, but I just saw just a lot of high school stuff with cliques and stuff, and I'm not really one to fall into any sort of clique and stuff, so I probably kind of did it mostly to myself looking back, but definitely didn't feel like my squad or my team or my platoon there was any cohesiveness, um, and if push comes to shove, I don't know who or if someone would have had my back or something. But yeah, and like I said, it could have just been my perspective being a young kid at the time versus the way I am now. Uh, it probably would have been. I probably would have interpreted it differently. Looking back on it now, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, we grow up and we change because you get different priorities when you're younger, and you think things or you'll make things up that aren't actually true. Um, when you're a junior guy, it was like, okay, and then you look back, you go, man, I was not very bright. And
Yeah,
then that
yeah.
makes you
Maybe I
think.
did deserve that.
That makes you think like now, in 20 years, you're going to look back and go, man, that guy. But you're thinking about the future and now, be like, am I not that bright now either? And then future me will be slightly more bright. Fuck, am I still an idiot? I think that
Yeah,
sometimes, like I still
yeah.
don't know
We get
anything.
we get we get yeah. We gain some humility in our elder years.
Elder, yeah, we get there. So you get selected, you get back in the course. SOPSI's kind of in the course. It's like the negative days of the course. Before is day zero, right? What's your thought process now? Because you got your second chance. You're back there. What are you feeling like going back into phase one?
I mean, I guess I was just, I mean, I was in, to say I was beyond stoked to have gotten selected is an understatement. And then getting there, we started with language training. And so going through language training was, that was a good time and just happy to be there and getting ready for SUT. And golly, SUT was an eye-opening thing. And I think I did well. I did well enough, but um, there was definitely some moments of questioning, like, do I really need to be here? Kind of thing. Some self-assessment, so to speak, instances. And um, but I alluded to that if you don't ever question your sanity, I guess, whether you're making the right decision or like, is this really worth it? If you never question that, I don't think you're pushing yourself hard enough. And I think coming from an infantry to work into small units was kind of a culture shock, and so trying to fit in with that whole dynamic of basically just running a squad through everything. Which, being a paratrooper infantry, I had enough knowledge to survive, but I think the culture shock was just changing, um, and then of course going through the course, the further along you get in the course, the more, look at me, I'm in phase 3, like, oh, I graduated MOS with no issues, and now I'm in Robin Sage or whatever. And so I think you graduate with the look at me, everyone, I'm a Green Beret. You're wearing your beret everywhere, like everyone look at my beret. And I think everybody goes through that because it's something to be proud of for sure. I definitely would find reasons like, oh, we're going to the PX, let me put my uniform on, you know, and nothing quiet about me at that time. And I mean, and nowadays, I wear my PC mostly, and they're like, why don't you ever wear your beret? And I'm like, because I not and because I hate wearing that thing, not because I hate being a Green Beret or anything like that. But you got to put it on, you got to shape it, whatever. Versus you get your PC, you just throw it on and walk out the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and so I think it's just at the time, you're just the cock of the walk, and then eventually you just kind of mellow out. So I think having that second chance, I kind of kept that to myself. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, we work so hard to get the Green Beret, and then everybody just wants to wear a baseball cap after that.
yeah,
And then,
yeah. Like, oh, when we got the OCPs, and they said like you can wear the OCP baseball caps, we're like, oh hell yeah. So, and then we get to Swick, and you get to wear the team hats. They're like, yes, I don't have to wear my beret everywhere.
yeah, yeah, and then you're on the team and you don't wear your uniform unless you're out in the field or
Yeah,
anything like that. So it all downgrades to a point to where you get the beret, and that's as military as you're going to look, unless you're going to take a DA photo or a death photo or something. And then as time goes on, you like fade towards wearing. You never wear it anymore. You're like, where's my beret? Fuck, I lost it. That's it.
oh yeah, that happens to me. Even in my current job being JROTC, it's like I got to wear my uniform. When we had an inspection, and I'm like, where the hell did I put that thing? I found it in the console in my truck.
Did you get to pick your MOS, or did you fall into Charlie?
So that was actually my first pick. I remember I sat with the guy, and he's like, "What language do you want?" I was like, "Well, I want French." And he's like, "Well, you should take like Persian or something." I'm like, "But I learned French in high school and stuff, so I have this background." I'm like, all right. And then I picked Charlie because I was infantry, so I'm like, I already know weaponries and stuff from the infantry, so I'd like to learn something new. And so it was actually my first. I got my first pick. I literally got my first pick in everything, even fifth group. So I always wonder though if like they thought fifth group because it's like the fifth battalion of the 101st or whatever, um, and because I wasn't no stellar student going through the Q course or anything. It's like, oh, we're gonna stick it to this guy because all my peers went to 10th group. French speaking Charlies and stuff went to 10th group, and they're like, oh, we're gonna stick it to him, give him fifth group, and I'm like, joke's on you. That's where I wanted to go. So like I kind of that's like my little inside joke to myself, but yeah, no, I actually got first pick and everything, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I and you have no weaponry, but then you get into the course and you talk to the Bravos, and they're like, "Fuck, man." I listen to all the shit they're learning. I go, "I'm glad I didn't do that." 'Cause I'm just all I got to do is build a house and
Bro.
some shit, and I know how to build a house
Yeah.
pretty easy. And they're like, "Oh, we had to take apart this," and then they're smoking the shit out of us and all these things. I was like, "Fuck, we didn't get smoked one time during the Charlie course, not once."
I did, but but no. When I got to be an instructor, we have to get tasked with inventories and go to the Bravo compound and conduct inventories. And my God, it is it is ridiculous. They give you this like this thick, and you walk into this building, and it's like what you see like the Matrix or John Wick, where it's just floor to ceiling and as far as you can see of just weapons you've never even heard of. And you're like going through the hander seat, which the nomenclature's never what it is. Like, what the hell is this? And there's a guy there to help you. He's like, oh, that's aisle 52, bin bay 6, bin 7, or whatever. So you walk there and you got to hit this number, and it's like, and you're like, oh, yep, there they are. So, and you're there all day inventorying these weapons. You're like, oh my god, I've never seen so many weapons.
Was this at the new compound when you were there, the one they had just built?
Yeah, yeah, that was at the new one.
So, how many weapons are we talking about? Like 10,000 different things, or what?
Oh, it seemed like it. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, I'm not exaggerating when I say it's like floor to ceiling and as far back as you can see. It's like the um, I guess like a library almost of just weapons. And I'm serious. Like you're like, hey, where's this? And they're like aisle 5, right? And so you go to aisle 5, and you literally had to like push in a button. Like I'm not exaggerating at all. You hit the buttons, and this thing goes in like a vending machine, grabs it, and and brings it down to you so you can inventory it. It's ridiculous. I mean,
I think now you say that the rotating thing, I remember some of the Bravos talking about that, where it was just like a one of those carpet things at Menards where it just rotates around.
yeah, exactly. It's a weapons guy's wet dream in there.
Only money, right? Just fucking, we'll just build something. How are we
Yeah.
gonna maximize space in here? Well, we'll just get a vending machine for machine guns, and the students will just put it all together for us. No, that's fucking. How was it being an instructor in the course after that though? Like, which phase were you in?
So I was a part of student company for SUT and SEER. So I just managed the students while they were at training, dealing with the getting them ready for training, dropping them off at training, anybody who quit, failed, whatever, processing them, and then sending them to SEER, etc. And then I would occasionally I'd go out and walk with them, um, just to observe training, I guess, and to get out of the office. But my when I found out I was going to SWIC, I was deploying. I had just gotten back from a deployment, or I was getting ready to go on a deployment, and my company sergeant major comes in and pulls me and my team sergeant out, and he's like, "Hey, I got some news. We're fixing up for Syria. Our company is going to be the first ones in, right? Tip of the spear." And I'm like, fuck yeah, tip of the spear. And he goes, "Except for you, you're going to SWIC." And I'm like, "No." So he's like, "But you did make the seven list, so congratulations." And I'm like, ah, it was like, so it was like a shit sandwich, with good news and then bad news. Um, so anyways, I was kind of upset about that. I went to the whole deployment. I was like, yeah, yeah, going to SWIC and trying to get my life ready for that. And so when I first showed up, I was kind of bitter that I didn't get to be tip of the spear, going into Syria and stuff. I was kind of bummed about that. Um, but I did go to the Fox course, and so I got to hear about all the great things that our battalion was doing, and the group as a whole, doing all the hearing about all the great things they're doing, and just kind of like living vicariously through my people. They'd come back from redeployment, and I'm calling them. I'm like, "So what'd you do? What was it like?" And living through like my junior, calling my junior and being like, "What was it like?" And hearing about all that stuff. And so I think at the beginning I was kind of bitter about it, but um, I'm the type of person that if I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to make the best of it. And so I try to take as much ownership as I could. I became the NCOIC, and I tried to create these like programs to help students be more successful. And so I tried to take as much ownership of it as I could and make my time the best that while I was there. In fact, prior to my heart, I had my heart attack while I was there. Prior to that, I was working with, they had this office of like athletic psychologists and trainers and such over at Bank Hall. And I sat down with them because I'm like, here's what I want to build. I got these really good soldiers, but I think when they get kind of put in the hot seat that they're being graded, they just kind of mind dump
Yeah.
everything. But they're good soldiers. So I think there's like this mental block, and I think we need to create some sort of thing to help them process that stress so then they can get through that and pass that and be more successful and whatever. And so I had this binder that I made of this whole recycle retraining, remedial training, recon, ambush, raid, PT, things like that, and little soldiers on sand tables and things of that sort. And I remember sitting and talking with them, and they're like, "Oh, this is a great idea." And I gave them my binder, and then I had my heart attack like not too long after that, and I was on like 6 months of convalescent leave and cardiac rehab, and then I come back, and they have this whole new program that's exactly what I described. And I'm like, "Oh, hey, I did that," and they're like, "No, you didn't. I did." Like some colonel or something like that, and I'm like, "You motherfucker!" So I'm like, whatever. So I guess that's my claim to fame there, although I can't prove it because I gave them my binder. Um, but that's what it came down to. Is I started off bitter, but then I came off to like, how can I give back as much as I possibly can and make the most of this? And so I guess that's kind of what it blossomed into, was that program. And I think it was pretty successful with that. We were able to reduce the attrition rate pretty well in that regard. As far as failures, recycles, they'd get recycled, and if they were worth a damn, because they still had to get recommended if they were worth the time. right? So they get recycled and then they get recommended. Then they would go off to this training and then they'd go back out to SUT and they'd be successful. And so we got to reduce the attrition rate in that aspect. And at a time when, they were wondering if they were going to be having to shut down battalions or whatever, that was huge and critical. So I think that was a success. I can hang my hat on it at least.
What year is this?
And that was after you got
Yeah.
there, got to your teams.
Okay. Yeah. Um, that's typical Army story, right? You come up with an idea and then something happens and all of a sudden it's somebody else's idea. And there's no record of you ever coming up with it. Um, didn't even get a challenge coin for it. So it's
I put it on my
typical.
NCOR though, and they signed it. So
Good. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, because in the civilian world, everybody looks at those. So you said, you were excited about being the tip of the spear in Syria, and then that got shut down. Had you been to Afghanistan previously when you got to fifth group?
no, no, that
No,
was my only trip to Afghanistan was with Fifth Group,
with fifth. Okay.
the good old VSO mission.
Oh, okay. Why were you so excited to go, or was it just something shiny and new, and you just wanted to do it, or what was the about the mission there that jumped out to you
The
in
what's
Syria?
what the tip of the spear?
In Syria,
Oh,
yeah.
well, yeah, because I mean, when after 9/11 happened, and you're watching all the news about, well, what's going to happen, and Bush going on there saying they're going to send special forces to Afghanistan and start hunting down Osama bin Laden and stuff, and then all of a sudden you see on the news in the background special forces soldiers moving um, with the Afghans in there, and you hear about the horse soldiers and all this stuff, and I'm like, fuck yeah, dude, like that's what I want to do. I want to be like boots on the ground, like that shit, like that's what I want to do, And so when it got to be tip of the spear, the first boots into Syria, it was like hell yeah, man, like that it was like almost like the crescendo moment of the career, I guess. Like you can say like, yeah, I was first on the ground there, pushing ISIS back into Raqqa and fucking destroying their shit. So, but but looking back, I had that heart attack, and it was probably for the best that I didn't go on that, and I ended up at SWIC, so where I could, where I had access to the health facilities because I didn't realize the damage and destruction I was doing to my own body, I guess.
Was it just kind of wear and tear over the years, or what caused it?
I think so. When I was going through all the testing, they couldn't figure out why. Um, because obviously I had nothing that showed signs of being predisposed to having a heart attack. But I think what it was, looking back, there was a lot of one uh, pressure of being able to perform on a team. So the constant um, trying to push yourself to be the best and the fastest and the strongest and such on on a team. And so what that made me do was I was on a lot of supplements without understanding what maybe those supplements were doing to my body. And then I was also on like fat burners on top of that. And then I was drinking like a gallon of coffee. And then like I would also have like four monsters. And so, um, so just constant, just stimulant after stimulant on my heart. And I mean, I'd go days without sleeping. I was so hopped up on whatever, and just eventually, just I think my heart just had enough, and I was sitting watching a movie one day, and all of a sudden, just like you see in the movies where they're like oh my god, and yeah, just called 911, and they're like, if you would have waited any longer, you would have been dead. So I'm like, oh
That sounds bad when you say it out loud. It's interesting that
yeah,
we like the lifestyle, right? You want to perform, you want to live up to not only what everybody else is doing, but what you have in your head for yourself. And it's crazy what we'll convince ourselves is normal. I need to be this strong and this fast, and I need to get this much work done. And I don't care if I sleep, when probably you'll be able to do those things if you do sleep. And you're
right,
always in the opposite effect. Maybe if you got 8 hours of sleep, you'd perform better than staying up and getting the work done and just doing a bad job or a poor job in comparison. So it's just crazy how you know, that morphs into what we tell ourselves is acceptable, healthy behavior to maintain the the team life or the SF persona or what we want to even accomplish for ourselves, right? I don't know.
And then when I was on my convalescent leave, trying to see if I can even get the covered by the VA or not, when before I started that whole process, I stumbled across a study from like Boston University, I think, where there's a study on special operations forces op tempo and an increase in cardiovascular disease. So even with the so according to them, just the whole global war on terror, the op tempo of special operations forces, like we've become um, kind of predisposed to having an increase in cardiovascular episodes just because of the constant levels of heightened stress and the stress that we put on our bodies.
Mm. Yeah, that and then you're taking on TBIs or overpressure and
Yeah.
shooting all the time and not taking care of that and just pushing it to the limit. And it doesn't sound very, it's tough to convey over a conversation of like what we're talking about because we're out and it's pretty relaxed. We're just having a conversation about how things were, but you're in the team, you're going to the range. Well, the range, you're shooting a lot. You're blowing up doors. You're stressed out from performing. You're shooting live rounds. Okay, now we're going to go jump out of a plane. No, now we're going to go on a ruck march. Now we're going to do this. We're training in vehicles, we're blowing shit up, shooting shit, trying to stay proficient. Well, now we got a team party on Saturday we got to go to. And you know what happens at a team party? We're probably going to hungover on Sunday, and now we're going to come into work on Monday and start the whole fucking thing over again. Oh, and we got to make sure we got all our gear and all our shit, and it just piles on and piles on and piles on. And like I said, we convince it it's normal and everything's okay, and then you at one time and you're like, "Fuck, man," It's like that scene in Bradley Cooper in that movie American Sniper, right? Where she takes his blood pressure and it's
Mm-hmm.
like 180 over 90 or some shit like that. And you get to
Yeah.
that point of stressed out in your life. Everything okay?
Oh yeah, I'm just
Oh, no worries.
wife's doing stuff.
So, did you accomplish what you set out to do, like through the course of your career? I asked you earlier, like, did you accomplishing for the reasons that you joined? But things change. You get to your unit and your view of what you wanted to accomplish at your unit changed. So you got back to SF, and then what you wanted to do there was one thing. Did you accomplish what you wanted to do as a Green Beret in the time that you were given to do it?
So the only two things I did not get to accomplish was one, Ranger School. I tried 3 times and I just could not seem to make that work for one reason or another, and Halo School. So because of my heart attack, that disqualified me from going to Halo School. So other than those two things, I did accomplish everything that I hoped to have accomplished. I'm very proud of everything that I got to do and experience, and the lessons that I took from my time, are invaluable. And I'm learning now that I can apply that to so many different things in my life nowadays and impart it onto our future generations. So I'm very proud of everything I did, that I did and I accomplished, and I have no reservations or regrets.
Yeah. Well, everybody wants to go to Halo School. That's like a universal one for Green Berets. It's either you will or you won't. And then it's surprising though you didn't get to go to Ranger School for fifth group, but you guys were hopping and popping at that time, so it's kind of hit or miss also.
Yeah, well, God didn't want me to have a Ranger tab, so it didn't matter.
I know how I felt getting out and medically retired. I didn't want to get medically retired. How did you feel towards yours? Like, was it inevitable and you're like, this is happening? Because mine kind of, it was either run and hide inside of SF, and I didn't know enough at the time. If I knew everything I know now, I'd still be hiding out somewhere in regiment, somewhere, and I'd still be serving somehow. Is that a sustainable, healthy relationship with the military? Probably not, but I don't know. I still would have done it had I known what I know now. How did you feel about yours?
I think that if I was still at fifth group, I would have done the same. Somebody would have been like, "Oh, we'll put you in S8 or something, right?" And just kind of hide out. But I think being at SWIC, I was kind of it was kind of an inevitable thing being at the flagpole and on Fort Bragg. But I remember after my convalescent leave, I went and sat down with one of the doctors, and he was like, "Look, you can't serve in this capacity anymore. So, if you wanted to stay in, you'd have to reclass to some desk job or something." Um, and I was like, "I don't want to do that." or he's like, or you can push for med board and possibly medically retire. and and so after a little bit of thought and um, after a little bit of thinking on it, I decided that retirement was just the better option, or at least taking my chances for it. And then it was just the stress of if I was going to get retired or not. But I knew my time as being operational was over. Because
Yeah.
even if they said that it was not over, I would have made it over because I wouldn't want to put anybody in that position to where I might have another episode or cardiac event and I become a liability. So I knew my time being on a team was over. But if I was at fifth group, like I said, I could have been put in an S shop or something, and it would have been, and it could have at least ridden out the last 5 years of my life. After everything's said and done, with the way my life is right now, yeah, I'm okay with it. At the time, I was resentful towards God and a whole bunch of stuff. And but looking back on it, it was for the best. It was for the best, and I'm very happy with where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, I wouldn't even need that. I needed just 2 more years so that I could sign my GI Bill over to my wife. If you didn't make it to 10 years, even if you're medically retired, you can't sign it over to your family or your kids. And that I was like, God damn it. I didn't know you don't know that until you get out, until you try to do it. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I hate school. I don't even fucking believe in it to that point. I'm like, why? But everybody says you need a fucking piece of paper. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try and make my whole life to not get one as like a spite thing, but that's neither here nor there. Um, you said because you get out, and even if you know it's coming, you're still fucking sad about it. I was really sad about it, and you get this fucking bad slump. Like, why do you think it like weighs down on us so much? I think it's like because, well, one, from us, like, you don't want to fucking, you didn't expect that to happen, right? And but even if you're ready for getting out, it still happens to everybody, even if they like 20 years retire and or ETS and it was their plan, it happens. Why do you think that is so prevalent?
So my theory on that is it has to do with the relationship between your identity and your role, in society. And I think that when you're in the military for so long, like I said, Sergeant Russell, Green Beret became my identity, versus my role in society. My role in society was I was a Green Beret. This is how I contribute to society, right? But I let it creep over into that became my identity. And so when I was getting medically retired and I knew that was going, my identity was essentially dying, right? And I think that that is what contributes a lot to, the emotional roller coaster that people face in those situations. And what I really think is, or what contributes a lot to the suicide epidemic is because there's a loss of identity. And with that loss of identity, there's a loss of purpose and direction and relevance. And when you lose purpose and relevance, then, what does it matter whether I'm here or not, right? And so, um, and then, even if you do 20, 30, 40 years and you get out of the military, I had this conversation with my colonel the other day. You're in a command position, or you're in a position where you have authority, and when you say go, people go, and what you say people do, they do. And then you get into a position where you can no longer do that. It challenges your whole identity, right? And when you're used to being in control and you no longer have control, then everything's out of control, right? And so what I learned was that you have to not reinvent, but you have to reestablish your identity, because your role in the military was just a role in society. Me being a teacher is a role in society. My identity is Patrick Russell, right? And so when I think about what does that mean? Like who is Patrick, right? Who is Patrick? And I'm like, well, I like to think of myself as a mentor. I like to think of myself as someone who likes to give back to my community. I like to help people. I like to, I'm patriotic. I like the things that I identify with become my identity. And so now, as long as I identify that and I can live within those parameters, then I'm all good, right? The role can come and go, and that's fine because I'm still me. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why now I can go to work, I can go to school, and these kids can be tyrants, and I can still come home with a smile on my face and sleep soundly at night because I'm like, hey, that's over there. I'm still me. My world is still intact and still sound. And so that's what I've come to uh, explain my whole journey. That's how I've come to explain it, and how I've come full 180 on it to accept what I can't change, and how I'm going to move forward.
What was the starting point to bring you to that realization? Was it you said found your faith, or was there or something that stood out in your mind where you kind of went, okay, I got to get my shit together, and this is the correct path now to lead to, getting a YouTube channel, making knives, working at JROTC. Where did it start? I guess the path to recovery or enlightenment.
I was actually in a class. The first day of the class, they handed me a piece of paper, and it was like this, like kindergarten clip art style piece of paper. And the first question on there was like, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I kind of was just like taken back, and I'm like 31, 32, something, and I'm like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I've already done everything I want to do. You know, I've peaked, and and so that caused a whole emotional roller coaster where I'm like, oh my God, I'm 31. I've done everything I've ever wanted to do. There's nothing for me to look forward to. And so that kind of started with like, well, what the hell do I want to do? And then it, you know, looking at jobs, looking at like, well, do I want to be a cop? No. Again, because of the whole cardiac thing. Um, I'm like, well, do I want to do this? No. And so it's like, well, what the hell do I want to do? What do I even like doing? So it started this like it started this like whole reflection thing, and it was like, well, who the fuck am I? you know, and so it caused me to really do some introspection, if that's a word, to some self reflection, and to even figure out who I am. And once I realized and it always came around, I was like, well, I was a Green Beret. Like, that's what I was born to do. Like, well, yeah, no, and that was just a portion, that was just a part of your life. And so, what about it made it so special? What about it made it like it was the right thing, right? And so it's like, well, what did I enjoy about it? Well, I enjoyed teaching people. I enjoyed mentoring. I enjoyed, all of these things that pointed to be a teacher, dummy. And so that started that kind of pathway. Was just a simple question of what do you want to be when you grow up?
I like that. But mine it was like, I accomplished everything. Same kind of path. It's like I accomplished everything that I set out to do. And now I've like everything's become clear, and it's now same statement. I accomplished everything I want to do. I'm totally fine with everything. Like now I wake up and I'm happy. I've got these projects I'm working on. If they're doing well, that makes me happy, and my fitness is making me happy, and other things like that. But there's no, and then those all feed into long-term goals. And we're all working towards that. But it's like a very strange calm. I did everything I want to do. I don't care if I drop dead tomorrow. I don't care if I live for 50 years. I'm just enjoying the like where I'm going. And it's all like a weird thing. Like I'm not stressed out about the set of the statement. I accomplished everything. Like I peaked, right? Now it's I accomplished everything I set out to do. Let's just do some new shit, and I'm not going to get hung up on the end of it because I got to that shit and it didn't make me happy. Like and then you get the group and it's not enough. You got to be fucking better than guys at group. And then there's all kinds of other shit that you want to be better than that. And that's not going to fucking make you happy either. So maybe those goals down the road, maybe they're not going to make me happy either. But the process of getting there, the crew course was a lot of fucking fun. Suck fucking blows. But it was a lot of fun. And I didn't stop to enjoy it at all, like while I was doing it. So maybe I think now it's like, let's just enjoy what we're fucking doing because this goal that could take decade to get to, it might not make us happy, but getting there has often made me quite happy. And so let's just fucking enjoy that part. And it looks like you're doing that and taking all the skills that we wrestled away from the military and putting it into action, especially leadership, and now just teaching different types of children. Before it was grown up children, and now it's actual children. So I commend you on that. So what is the far off? What does success look like for you? I kind of laid out like what mine was, but where do you want to take this in 5, 10, 20 years and get to in that journey to get there?
I'd love to have my own bushcraft course that people can come to and we can go camping and do stuff. That's where I want to get Bearded Bastard Outdoors too, because I want to build that outdoor community and be able to bring people out and go have some fun, whatever that may look like. Just learning and growing and teaching stuff. The knives, I would love to be able to build or grow my forge to a point where I can bring people over for classes or just to have some fun. You know, veterans and their families, banging out some knives and whatever. And then I've helped out a few nonprofits as well with my knives. I want to continue to do that. Most notably, don't I helped out the Toby Keith Foundation. That was really awesome to be a part of that. I hope I get to do it again. So that's where I want to take that. And then as far as the teaching thing, I mean, as long as I'm still relevant and that generational gap doesn't get too wide, and I can still connect with the kids and they'll still have me, I'll do that for as long as I can. Um, Obviously, I don't want to be principal or anything like that. I'm very happy with where I'm at, but and just doing it as long as I can. So and then the book, I actually have the 34 page one right there. Again, I want to get that rewritten and on the shelves within a year, and then I already have an idea for another one. So maybe have a couple books under my belt.
Well, yeah, you got to do one, and then you'll improve on that one. You get to the next one, and you just make changes and improve on down the road. Very rarely do we get to sprint right out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, learn that one.
one more about the JRTC. Does the position that you're in, you spoke about, generational gap. Does the position that you fill have an expiration date for you being in it?
I think the person like a contract, no. Um,
What
but
about,
as
yeah, you
far
spoke to
as
that
being it
generational gap though.
right, I think there comes a point where you just get too old and you can't relate to the children anymore. Like right now, you know, they're the same age as my kids. So you know, it's I think that's a very good amount of a gap. The guy that I replaced, you know, he'd be like great grandpa, where he's an excellent individual. But I think relating and understanding where the kids are in this generation, um, I think there becomes some obstacles there. And so I think as long as I'm able to still relate in that regard, um, then I'll still be relevant. But once I get too old, then I'll just have to leave it up to the younger people to take over.
And that's the way it goes, right? We time out of everything. For as hard as we try, we'll got to step down eventually. Hey man, I got 5 questions I ask everybody, and then I'll cut you loose. How's that sound?
Alrighty.
What is your response to thank you for your service?
You know, I get so upset when people get so upset about that. You know, like thank you for your service, and then they're like, I don't know, people get offended by that for some reason. I simply just say, hey, thanks for your support, right? The way I see it is that whether the words are empty or not, however people see them, it's somebody just trying to say something nice, right? Like, oh, I was in the military. Oh, thank you for your service. Hey, thanks for your support. You know, I'm not going to be like, fuck you, dude. Like, you didn't serve. Like, what value does it bring to be like, that offends me? I'm like, oh, no, thanks for your support, you know? and you know, and I just leave it at that. It's like, hey, you said something nice. We're just going to leave it at that, and we're going to go about our business. I'm not going to waste energy on whether you actually meant it or not, or whether it brings any value to the table. You want to thank me, thank me. If you don't, you don't. It don't matter to me.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there's no reason to get spun up for no reason.
I know. I see so many like vet bros on podcasts, and they're like they thank me for my service, and they don't know what it's like to be in Iraq at 02 and blah blah. Of course they don't. They're just trying to be nice.
Yeah. That's that's all of it. And you'll feel a lot better if you just be nice. Just be nice and be positive. I feel so much better. Um, What is the one characteristic that sets operators apart from the conventional forces?
um, we are willing to try, and I think that's the big takeaway. When I was an instructor, I used to joke that SF guys are the ones who are too stupid to quit when it hurts. Um, but I think everybody has, well, not everybody obviously, but there's a lot of folks out there in the conventional side who have what it takes to be on a team. I just think that there's that hesitance to try. And I think a lot of times those who are successful are there just because they were brave enough to try. And I think that's what separates us from those in the conventional forces that are capable, that are more than capable.
What is the one moment of your career that you wish you could go back and relive or redo and it wouldn't change where you are now?
At any point in my career, honestly, it might be a canned answer, but I wouldn't change anything because if I changed anything, um, it might change. Well, I think you said it wouldn't change anything now, right?
Well, you can't change. So we went over this in Avengers
Okay.
Endgame. Changing the past doesn't change the future. So if you went back and changed anything, it's not going to change where you are now.
Okay. Okay. I would probably, I don't know. I guess a part of me would want to relive some parts of my infantry days just because of the friends that I did have that I've grown out of touch with, um, one way or another. Um, just to be able to see them again, that'd be nice. Um, I think there's parts of some J sets I'd like to go experience again just because maybe I missed out on a touristy opportunity or just the fun that I had of living in a cave with some Indigenous folks and getting to train them in the pouring down rain, or being in Afghanistan and training up the Afghans on being self reliant and sufficient in their counter mining operations. Um, and then my last deployment, which I don't know if I can really discuss too much, but that one was probably the most rewarding, just because of what we did accomplish and got to do. And that's the one that I favor out of all of them. And just to be able to maybe re-experience that would be a good time.
The best piece of advice that you received during your career.
There's a lot. Probably the best one though that I still hold on to this day. So in 2000, oh my God, I'm gonna get killed. John Farmer from Fifth Group was killed in Syria, 2019, and he was my senior when I showed up to my first team. Um, he was my senior Charlie, and he was somebody that I looked up to. He was one of those, like, he wasn't he wasn't mean by any means. He was very welcoming and very willing to sit down and be like, this is what this is and this is how you do this, right? And he told me one day that if you treat everything like it's your job, then you'll be successful, whatever that may be. If we were cleaning a bathroom, and he's like, if cleaning this bathroom was your job, then you'd be successful at it. So that's how you need to look at it. And so I try to tell people that, whether regardless of where you're at, whether you're in high school or wherever, it's your job to be here. So if you treat it like it's your job and you apply that work ethic to it, then you're going to be successful. And so that's probably the biggest one that I hold on to today. There's several others, but that's the one I probably bounce back to repeatedly.
Yeah, I like that. Last one, man. What were you afraid of then, and what are you afraid of now?
Back then, going back to the whole working out thing, I had a poster that I hung in my home gym that said train like your buddy's life depended on it. And I think that obviously that comes from, I don't want to be the one who can't pick up somebody out of off the battlefield and get them to safety. So that was my biggest fear, I guess, was letting other people down, letting my brothers down. And today it would just be, simply just failing as a husband and a father, I think would be my biggest fear.
Yeah, man.
You hear that, wife? She's not here.
She wasn't even around to hear that candid
She didn't hear me.
response. She didn't hear you as well. She's gonna have to listen to the
Yeah.
podcast. Patrick, how can everybody find you on the socials and your channel and all that other stuff if they so choose?
So Facebook, um, my page is BB Outdoors because Facebook doesn't like the word bastard, so it's BB Outdoors. Or if you're into the knife making, it's McGeezy Knives, and that's Migizi. Um, Same thing on TikTok, and then on YouTube, I only have the one channel, and that's Bearded Bastard Outdoors. And I don't know if you can throw an image of there, but it's got a cool guy skull with like a arrow and a rifle um, behind it, like a pirate. So
Good
yeah,
time. I really
subscribe,
appreciate.
reach out, holler at
Yeah.
me.
We'll get you a few. We'll get you a few. This will go up into the queue. This will be out in, well, quite a while, but I appreciate you coming on and having a chat with me. It's good to finally meet you. And if there's anything in the future that I can do for you, help you out, just let me know. It's all I kind of want to do right now. You got anything for me?
No, I appreciate I appreciate the patience. I know we had to reschedule this, but a couple times, but you finally getting on here. I appreciate your time, and if and likewise, if I can help promote you in any way, my little community, I'd be happy to do so.
Appreciate that, man. Bye, everybody.